Okay guys, continuing on with circles. Today we are talking about arc length and area of a circle. So first we're going to talk about arc length. And if you remember, an arc is part of a circle's circumference. So if we have a circle from here to here would be an example of an arc. And we're going to find the length of that arc. Okay, so the formula for arc length is arc measure divided by 360 times circumference, and if you remember, circumference is 2 pi r. Okay, so arc measure is the degree. Okay, so the degree of the arc. Right, so we find arc length by taking that degree, dividing it by 360, and timesing it by the circumference, or 2 pi r. Okay, so in this example, my radius is 8 and my arc measure is 110 degrees. So we find arc length equals, take our arc measure of 110 degrees divided by 360 and multiply it by their circumference. Oops. Sorry about that. Multiply by the circumference, so 2 pi r is 8. Okay, and we get approximately 15.35. Okay, this time I'm going to give you a circle. And I'm going to tell you that the radius of this circle is 140. And this time I'm going to tell you that the arc length, I'm going to give you the arc length. The arc length is 230. Okay, so from this point, we'll call this point A, to point B is 230 units. And then from this point, we'll call this point C, from point C to point A is 140 units. I want to know what the degree of this angle is. Okay, remember that this is a central angle, and central angles are equal to the arc measure, the intercepted arc. So we'll call this x. Right, so we know the arc length equals, so 230 degrees equals the arc measure, x, divided by 360 times our circumference. Okay? So when we do this, we're going to figure out what 2 pi r is, or 2 pi times 140. And that is about 879.2. Okay? So then we are going to multiply, to get rid of this 360 down on the bottom, we're going to multiply both sides by 360. So 230 times 360 gives us 82,800. Okay, and then to get this x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 879.2. Oops. So x is approximately 94.2. So my degree of this angle is 94.2 degrees. Or if you'd like to round it to just 94 degrees, that's fine with me too. Alright, let's look at 2 more examples before we move on to area of a sector. Alright, so in this first example, we're going to find arc length. And in the second example, we're going to find arc measure. Okay, so first example, we have this, let me redraw that, sorry. We have this central angle, and the radius is 4, and this angle, or the arc measure here, is 120 degrees. Okay, so we just plug everything in. So our arc length equals 120 divided by 360 multiplied by 2 pi times 4. Okay, so we plug all that in and we get about 8. Okay, make sure you guys are doing the work with me on the calculator. Make sure you are able to plug this in the calculator and make sure that you're able to get the same answer that I'm getting. Alright, so let's look at this example. Again, my radius is 4. This time I'm given that my arc length is 4.2. And I want to know what the arc measure is. So, again, we'll say that this is x, and we'll solve for x. So 4.2, my arc length, 4.2 equals what our arc measure over 360 times 2 pi 4. Okay, so let's figure out what 2 times pi times 4, so 8 pi which is about 25.12. Multiply both sides by 360. So we get 4.2 times 360 gives us 1512. And then we divide both sides by 25.12. So x is approximately 60.2 or 60 degrees. Right, so that's arc length. Pretty straightforward, just memorizing the formula. Alright, area of a sector. If you remember, a sector is that pizza slice or pie slice, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so first let's remember what the area of a circle is. The formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay, so what would be the area of a semicircle? Okay, well, a semicircle is half a circle, so we would just put half pi r squared. A quadrant is a fourth. So a fourth pi r squared. And if you remember when we were talking about what a sector was, these are both examples of sectors. They are a portion of the circle. So this is just half of a circle and this is a quadrant. Alright, we're going to look at how to find the area of any sector. Okay, and there's two examples. There's two, not examples, sorry. There's two formulas. Right, the first formula is area equals n over 360 times pi r squared. Okay. Okay, where n is arc measure. Right, and then the second formula is area equals CS over 2 pi r times pi r squared. Where CS is arc length. I'm not really sure why N and CS are used in these formulas. Maybe it has something to do, the CS maybe has something to do with the circumference. I'm not really sure about that, but I can look it up if you're really that curious. Okay, so depending on what you're given in the example, whether you're given arc measure or arc length, will tell you which of the two formulas you need to use. Okay, so let's look at examples. All right, in the first example, we're given a circle that has a radius of 10, and we're told that this angle here is 60 degrees. Okay, this is a central angle. That means that this is also 60 degrees, the arc measure. Okay, when in these examples, you're finding this area right here. Okay, this shaded area. In these examples, when you're told to find the area of a sector and you're given a degrees, that tells you right off the bat, if you see a degree symbol, that tells you right off the bat that you're going to use that first formula of A equals n over 360 times pi r squared. Right? So we know we're using that formula. So my n in this case would be 60. 60 over 360 times pi. My r is 10. 10 squared. Okay, and then when you plug that in, you should get approximately, I think it's 52.3. Right, let's look at another example. Right, in this example, we have a circle with a, whoops, didn't mean to draw that, with a radius of 12. And this time we're told that this arc length is 40. Okay? I want to know what the area of this sector is. So, of course, this time I was given the arc length. So that tells me that I'm going to use this second formula. Right? So, area is 40 over 2 pi r. Notice 2 pi r is the circumference. So 2 times r is 24, so 24 pi times pi r squared. Alright, so the kind of cool thing about this formula is that the pi's always cancel. So I have one on top, one on bottom. They always cancel out. Right, so we can rewrite this as 40 over 24 times 144. 12 squared is 144. Okay, so you should get 240. Area is 240. Units squared. Remember, area is always unit squared. So if I were to give you that this was centimeters, then this would have been centimeters squared. Alright, let's look at two more examples. And as always, feel free to pause the video and try the example after I write it before I solve it out for you. So that way you can see if you can do it on your own. Alright, so two examples. Okay, so in both of these examples, I want you to find the area of the sector. So here's where you can pause the video and try this on your own. Okay, so this first example here, notice it just says 7.85. There is no degree symbol, so that tells me I'm going to use the second formula. So 7.85 divided by 2 pi r, so 8 pi, times pi r squared. Okay, remember the pi's cancel. So I'm given 7.85 over 8 times 16. Okay, so that is about 15.7. Right, and then in this example we see the degree symbol, so that tells me that I'm using the first formula. So 100 degrees over 360 times pi r squared, and that's about 31.4.